Here goes again. Another unfortunate story, another unfortunate news about Sri Lankan leopards. We just heard about half an hour ago that the black leopard caught on a snare trap a couple of days ago is officially dead. Now, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to make out of this story because it's so unfortunate, so frustrating, so disappointing, and it makes us so angry to realize that the prominence, the significance that and the care that we have for our wildlife, a rare, if not one of a kind wildlife species, a resource that we have of this country is this black leopard, which we thought for some time is extinct from this land. We found them again in our soil just a few months ago, and it only took about 5 months for us to kill the only spotted black leopard that we found in this isle. While it is so unfortunate that we are losing this subspecies at a rapid rate, which we only have about 900 at max, and half of it is in our national parks and the balance is on the central hills and elsewhere, and out of these close to 900 leopards, we only have noticed just one black leopard so far. We've captured, we only spotted just one so far. It has come to such a level that is so disappointing that we do not have any plan of action. When the DWC figured out that there is this black leopard roaming in the Sri area, that they said they will employ a special plan, a special mechanism, a special conservation plan to ensure the protection of this animal. But here again, several months after, the same animal gets trapped in a snare trap. Another mishandling of a situation, in my opinion. I could be right, I could be wrong, and it's to be proved by the experts later after a proper post-mortem is done. But as we all know, in the case of the 7 elephants that died, majority thought it was poisoned. We are still waiting for the culprits to be punished, apprehended, or to be found, and we are still waiting for the report to be made public, and we are still waiting for proper answers. So similarly, I don't think there is any reason, any point of doing post-mortems and to figure out what exactly went wrong, other than if you want to really make it right. But looking at what has happened in the past, there is no proper plan for the Department of Wildlife to make things right, and knowing the fact that at the time of the rescue, apart from the trauma and shock that the leopard would have had, it didn't have deadly physical injuries, to say the least. Looking at the rescue operations done by the Department of Wildlife for the last several years, we found so many irregularities and standard operating procedures being ignored. For instance, standard rescue operation requires certain basic equipments and required assistance from respective agencies. For instance, in the case of leopards, whether be it Agarapatana, be it Thalawakale, and be it Nallataniya, all these areas, most recent rescue operations were utter failures to a great extent because they were coming in late. Because there is not enough vets in the department, and that is no excuse that an animal can be left trapped for a long time. And on the other hand, they do not come with enough equipments and assistance. For instance, that they do not have cranes to climb the trees, the proper belts to wear, and they do not have the right size cages to carry the animal. The biggest issue of all is manhandling. When a situation is reported that you have people flooding into the scene, and then people handling becomes an issue, and they create a havoc, and they make the animal suffer more and get frightened more, and this need to be handled, and for that probably the support from the police is required, and probably the support from the local government bodies is required, and probably the support from the Grama Sevakas are needed, and none of these were witnessed recently, and therefore the most rescue operations were failures to a greater extent that have harmed the animal even more and traumatized the animal even more. As we know, there is about 900 leopards in the country, and out of which we have only one spotted black leopard, and this is the leopard that got trapped in this snare. And that there has to be a way that the Department of Wildlife addressing the snare traps issue just as much as how they should address the hakka issue with the elephant deaths. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like anyone wanting to finding a proper solution, and we have proposed there is plenty of ways that you can handle this. Now we know the plantations in the Central Hills are the hot zones, for instance from Nuwareliya to Hatton to Bagawantalawa to Talawakale to up to Ruwanwella, Yatiyantota, and this entire area surrounding the Central Hills, Knuckles, and then the Sri Pada Sanctuary. These are the hot zones, so you have a proper understanding as to where the leopards are and where the snare traps are kept. So get the estate managements involved, plantation managements involved in finding a solution, and you need to appoint your own respective guardians or the agents or the informants or people to provide you with intelligence in terms of hunters, poachers, and people who basically keep snare traps. So it's very easy to do that. It can be, there could be voluntarily appointees, there could be people who would come forward voluntarily to support in this venture, because they need to be also educated on the importance of the leopard, especially when you have a black leopard. We cannot let these species go extinct from our land. Now we wouldn't know whether this is the last of the black leopards that we have in this country, and if that is the case, it would be ironic and it would be so disastrous in terms of our failure to protect these species, in terms of the failure by the Department of Wildlife Conservation, knowing that this is the last spotted black leopard, and it would be the failure of us as a nation. And we have a lot of patriots everywhere when it comes to politics, to religion, to all of it, but I don't see any patriot who is standing and taking a stand on protecting these invaluable species that we have in this country. And it would be the failure of our politicians who've ruled this country for the last 20 to 30 years, seeing these beautiful creatures go extinct, talking about our great tuskers, talking about our great leopards, talking about the last 3 to 4 black leopards that died mainly out of snare traps. So the snare traps need to be dealt with. It need to be severely dealt with. The responsibility have to be given to the estate managers. Responsibility should be given to the estate community, mostly the estate Tamil community who are keeping these traps in the areas, and the responsibility should be given to the Department of Wildlife, who do not take notice of this crime that was going on for a long time. Not only snare traps but also hakka and poaching. And responsibility should be given to the failed politicians who were the Minister of Environment for the last 4 to 5 governments, who did not absolutely care about our wildlife resources. The ministers that we've had recent past were one of the most unsuitable and one of the most ignorant and one of the most corrupt, I would say, who did not have any knowledge, any consciousness or any love towards environment or wildlife. All these secretaries of the ministries who did not ensure the protection of natural resources that we have, including the wildlife resources. And the responsibility must be given to the ministers of tourism, who did not know that more than 50% of our tourist arrivals are due to the elephants and the leopards that we have in this country. And from the politicians to public officials to the plantation management, plantation companies to Grama Sevakas to the divisional secretariats to other environmental regulators, including Central Environmental Authority and Department of Forest Conservation, Mahabali and other entities such as LRC, all of these people are responsible for the great losses that we've had recently, especially when it comes to leopards. So it is high time that at least, probably we are too late still, we still have our leopards left, maybe not the black leopards but leopards left, and we still have our tuskers left, a small number, and we still have some of our bears left, and we need to protect these great species. We need to protect them at any cost. We have proposed solutions. We have spoken. We were outspoken about the solutions that are there for human-elephant conflict, as they say, and the human-leopard conflict, as they say. But it's quite simply put, we are going on a rampage on killing these species and degrading their habitats, and the habitat loss has become the greatest issue. And from the president to the prime minister to every politician should know, the habitat of these great species, from tuskers to the leopards, need to be protected. And if their territories are not protected, if their habitat is not protected, and their habitat is used for various so-called development projects, we will eventually have a country without tuskers, leopards and bears, and that country will no longer be the country we used to call Sri Lanka, or we used to call Ceylon, or we used to call the greatest wildlife tourism destination in Asia. Let us all get together and try our best to preserve at least what is left today.